right. I've got something I want to talk about today. I'm very passionate about this. I'm very opinionated about this topic. Just something I kind of want to rant about here for a few minutes. So let's get into it. I'm filming this completely off the cuff today. I'd love to be outside, but classic northern Minnesota weather is keeping me away from doing that. So I'm filming in my dorm room currently. So I'm also a little quieter. So I want to talk about trigger punching and back tension style releases. Once again, I released a short on this 2 days ago. I want to do more of a video on my thoughts on it and talk about it a little more. I'm going to be doing this a lot today. So first point that I want to talk about, and this is one of the things that I'm kind of ranting on about. When people talk about using back tension to execute a shot, when I first learned about it, right, I wanted to go online and I wanted to figure out, what does this mean? What does using back tension mean in archery, right? And every video I found on how to shoot with back tension, all they would tell you to do over and over again, they'd say, get the draw. They'd say, get the draw, get on your target, and just pull through the shot. Every single one of them would just say, pull through, and the release will just go off. Hearing that made no sense to me, because simply pulling isn't going to do anything. So when they say that, I don't know if they realize how misleading that really is, and that's a point I want to talk about today. You can't just pull and have the shot go off. Luckily, I did end up finding a video that actually explained the real process behind it. I'll link in the description and I'll mention it here more too, because it's very important that people find that video. When they say pull through, what they mean is this: your back, right? Fully at draw, your thumb is around your barrel, assuming you shoot a thumb button. Your thumb is around your barrel, and what happens is, as you're pulling, what you're actually doing is you're relaxing these fingers here. You're relaxing them, letting them go forward, and when they go forward, that pulls this button into your thumb, right into that bend of the thumb. And as you keep going, as you keep pulling through the shot, that button goes into your thumb enough to just go off naturally. It's not pulling that makes the shot go off. It's still the button that is being pushed in. And that was the thing that was super misleading from all those videos that I watched. When I found these videos and I was trying it out myself, for a while, I was actually really frustrated with it, because, like I said, all they tell you to do is pull through. What does that mean? For the new archer that's trying to learn how to execute a better shot, per se, telling them, hey, just pull through, that's not going to do anything. If they're shooting a thumb button, this button needs to go down, otherwise the shot won't happen. Nothing will happen. Pull through the shot. Okay, let me just pull. Wow, nothing's happening. It's like the button needs to go down in order for the release to break. You can't just tell people to pull through. It doesn't work. That's point number one. That's one I wanted to talk about, because the majority of videos I watched on it were not helpful at all in this respect. You have to get the draw, put the thumb on the barrel, pull, and as you pull, relax your fingers. Let the thumb button go into your thumb as you're relaxing, and you just keep going nice and slow until it breaks. That's how you shoot back tension with the thumb button. You don't just pull through. Before I fully move on this point, I want to get a close-up shot here of exactly what I'm talking about. So you're at draw, you've got your anchor, you're pulling, you're relaxing the fingers, you're letting that button come into your thumb, and eventually it goes off and pulls through. That's what that means. Another thing I kind of want to rant about. Elk Shape released a video yesterday comparing a couple of releases. I forgot the names of them. One of them was the Ibex, another one might have been a Stan or something. They were comparing them because they're new technology, so they're hinge releases. I gotta stop doing this. They're hinge releases. So what that means, and in this case, what it means is you're back and you're curling. Once you're back, you're curling the release like this, which eventually causes just the string, usually, most of the time, sometimes they're open hooks, and it just causes the string to just come out of the open hook. That's usually what the hinge does. These ones, what they do is they have a moving head to them. So instead of just being fixed, as you curl, it's almost like it breaks into two sections in a way, and it has an intermediate section. So it'll break in, make a noise, which I think in this case was like some sort of buzzing sound. So you'll come, it'll go zzz, or like make a noise. You'll know it's into like that second stage, we'll call it. It'll make a noise, and the point of it is to keep you engaged in the shot process, right? Joel Turner is a big advocate for this. He loves that kind of thing. It'll keep you in the shot process when you hear that noise, or at least that's what it's supposed to do. And then you just slowly keep going until it breaks naturally. I want to talk about this because the noise thing is interesting. Like when the stand clicker came out, I don't know if that's what it's called, or the stand, it has the click in it. Everyone knows what it is. It's a thumb button. When that came out, again, Joel Turner being a huge advocate of it, he was saying the whole point of that click is to re-engage your mind in the shot process. It's supposed to help you focus on the release again. Kind of makes sense, but I also feel like if you're back, you get on target, you start going until you hear the click, you start pulling, as they say, right? When in reality, what you start doing is you start relaxing your fingers so the button can go in your thumb. That's actually what you start doing, as well as pulling, because pulling allows you to relax and keep tension that whole time. When that button gets into your thumb far enough, it clicks. And in my opinion, I've never used one, so I can't really speak on this. I feel like instead of re-engaging your mind, it almost just makes you more conscious that your shot's about to break. And Joel talks about this too, and a lot of people talk about this. It's what shooting a bow is kind of like an explosion right next to your face. I think those are the exact words that Joel uses. It's kind of like an explosion. You know what's going to happen, and your body subconsciously tenses up and expects that impact. It expects that explosion. I gotta imagine, this is just a thought, totally a thought, can't say I can prove this. I gotta imagine that click, yes, it re-engages it, but it also makes your mind think, okay, this is about to go off. I feel like you could tense up and cause something to happen to that shot, knowing that click's there. In a case like my release, or even just any release that doesn't make noise, if you're back and you just know mentally, pay attention to it the whole time. Just the whole time, only focus on the release, don't worry about the shot. If you're back, this one doesn't make a noise, right? If you're back, you do the pull, finger relax, let the barrel go into the thumb, style, back tension, right? Not to just pull through the shot, because that's physically impossible. If you do that with no noise and just mental strength, if you go as slow as possible, you'll never realize the barrel's even moving. You'll never know when the shot's going off. With that click sound or a buzz sound, you're gonna hear zzz, okay, this is about to go off. And now you're tense, now you're waiting for it. Now you know you're close until it goes off. If you have no sound, you'll have no idea when it's going off, which in my opinion that's just as like natural as it gets. That's as smooth of a release per se as you can possibly do, because you have no idea, truly no idea. With the click, I can see it working. I can see it working for some people. I'm not trying to totally just like dog on it. I can see it if it's slow enough. If you have it set far enough away, so like if you're back, you hear the click, and then the way you have your release set, if you have it set so that you hear the click and then it still takes you another 5 seconds to maybe get it to go and actually shoot, maybe I can see it being worth it, because then it's still like, okay, a click, I know I'm kind of close, I know I still have a while to go, then you don't really know when it's going off. I just feel like the click makes you tense up more, or at least I would imagine it would. I've never shot one, so I can't say for sure. It's just kind of like a theoretical. I feel like, yes, it re-engages the brain, but it also engages the brain to think, hey, listen, this is about to go off. I know I'm really close now. I could see some subconscious tensing up, or some subconscious shake after the shot breaks, right? So it doesn't seem like it's a true surprise then if you have a noise in it like that. Nonetheless, it was a good video that I'll actually post to the release. It's cool, it's unique. I just feel like that noise could cause an issue, and I feel like it's something that no one talks about. I feel like I've never heard anyone say what I'm saying about that. So that's a point I wanted to bring up. The only other thing I want to talk about is the way I personally shoot my thumb button currently. I think I think using the true back tension surprise release, if you can get the hang of it, is the best way to do it, and I'm working towards it. The way I shoot right now would technically, the phrase trigger punch, right? I think it's a little overused, and I think it's a little sensitive. I think the way I shoot my release, right? I wrap my thumb around the barrel. I get on target, and the second I get on target, I don't typically pull and let my fingers relax. Usually, I get on target, wrap my thumb around, and I get it deep into the barrel, deep into the barrel. As far as I can tell, the barrel doesn't move, but I have it deep into the barrel. And so when I'm on target and I'm hovering around, I'm pulling a little bit to increase that thumb barrel contact, but not a lot. And all I'm doing, once I'm on target, I'm hovering, I'm kind of just letting the pin float, and then I'm just tapping the trigger. I mean, it is literally as light as just, it's by definition of a punch, definitely not a punch. By the definition of the phrase trigger punch, technically, because I am physically pushing it in, even though it is just a little bit, I think technically it would go into that definition. One other thing I want to talk about too, you can technically force any release to go off. In the video that I was talking about with the elk shave video that they released literally yesterday or something, or like Tuesday or whatever, or no, I guess it would have been Monday. When they released that video, they were helping one of their friends try to get over trigger punching, right? And so he was shooting this new hinge that I've mentioned. And in the video, again, what it looked like to me, and this is what prompted me to say, I think the noise actually makes the brain think more about the shot, which is theoretically good, but also subconsciously tenses up for the shot. And what he was doing is he had the hinge, right? He had it back, and he'd go through his process, he'd hear it make that buzz sound, and then by the way the video looked, he just straight into it. This isn't surprise. Doing this isn't surprise. He would go slowly, he would hear it, and then to me it just looked like he went boom, shot. And it looked like he was being praised for it. It looked like that was what was supposed to be correct, apparently. To me, that looks like it's very, very intentional. It looks like a trigger punch, but in this case, a hinge curl, like an intentional hinge curl. Like he was back, heard the buzz, boom, went straight into it. Like that was it. That's not a surprise. So I didn't get that part of it either. I don't want to make this video to seem like I'm just bashing their video. It's just something I noticed and I wanted to talk about. Is that correct? Maybe that's the way you're supposed to do it. To me, that looks like would be the equivalent of a trigger punch, but with a hinge. You can't, if you're intentionally, well, and technically you could say that even in your classic back tension style, when you're back like this and you're pulling through the shot, your brain, doing these physical movements of pulling, releasing, or relaxing the fingers and letting that barrel go into the thumb, all of that's intentional. Everything you're doing is intentional. So when they say it's truly a surprise, the break might be technically a surprise, kind of, but at the same time, you know what you're doing. Everything you're doing is totally intentional. You're back, you're pulling, you're relaxing your fingers. You know that this barrel is going into your thumb. You can feel it, and then it just goes. Everything you're doing is intentional. You could technically do all of those steps correctly, and it wouldn't be classified as a trigger punch, even though you know what you're doing. You could be pulling, right? You could be on target, and the second you hover over target, you could just fast relax these fingers and immediately let the barrel go into your thumb. Technically, that would be back tension style, but it wouldn't be a true surprise. You know what I'm saying? You can force any release, any technique, you can force it to go off whenever you want to. And I think that's kind of the point I want to get at is, I think the back tension hype it's a little much. It's a little overstated, I think. I think it's a little overthought. I'm all about going as surprised as you can, being as smooth as possible, right? But at the end of the day, you can, in a way, force it to do it whatever you want. You can quickly relax into the button. You can trigger punch, which everyone hates, technically quickly relaxing or hearing that buzz and quickly turning over. All of those are punches, you know, according to the trigger punch definition, I would imagine. So it's like, really, what is the correct way to do it? It's whatever's comfortable. If you want to punch the trigger, in my opinion, as long as you're not doing one of these numbers where your thumb is out here and you're just boom every time, as long as you're not doing one of those and you're at least attempting to get your thumb deep into either the barrel or deep into the process of your hinge or whatever release you're shooting, as long as you're back and the release process is all you're focused on being truly smooth with it, even if you give it just a light tap, to me that is better than truly punching the trigger. I think that term needs to have a couple definitions, or at least 2 different phrases or something, because an actual punch is really punching it. You know what's happening. That will never execute a good shot, or as good of a shot as you could do it. It just will never do that, because one, you're actually moving the release when you do that, but if you're slow enough with it, even just a little tap, it's not going to do anything. It goes back to possibly tensing up because you know what's going to happen. There's a chance it does that. I feel like if you're used to it and that's the way that you usually shoot your release, you're not going to tense up. It's not going to be something you notice. Some people might disagree with that. You just subconsciously do it. That's totally possible. I don't know. This is just something I want to talk about. But I think the back tension movement, if you could call it a movement, I think it's good-hearted. It makes sense, but I think it's almost overthought, because when you're back, it's not just pulling through the shot. That's my main point, really. It's not just pulling through the shot. There's so many other processes that you're doing. It can never truly be a real surprise, I feel like, because there's other processes to it. You know, yeah, if you have a true back tension release where you're back, there's no button, there's nothing, and you're actually just pulling until it goes off, there could be more of a surprise aspect there. Still, if you shoot it long enough, I feel like you're going to get used to it, and it's not going to be a surprise anymore because you have it set to a certain weight. You would know how much you have to pull until it goes off. So the whole point is going slow. So it's not necessarily don't punch the trigger. It's not necessarily shoot the way that the pros shoot with the back tension, letting it relax. Really, it's just go as slow as you can, no matter what style you shoot. That's the big message. At least in my opinion, go as slow as you possibly can, even if it's a definition of trigger punch. Go as slow as you can. Don't necessarily worry about where you're hitting. Just focus on being slow on the release, no matter what it is, as slow as possible. So like with my style of release, I like digging my thumb into it, really digging it in, almost pushing it in a little bit. And then so when I'm hovering over target, I just give it a little extra tap. That's it. I'm pulling through, I'm tight, but I just get a little extra tap and it comes through. It's intentional, but it's still slow and it's still smooth. But yeah, I mean, that's really all I wanted to talk about here. I just wanted to run through some of my thoughts on it because I feel like the videos online of how to actually shoot back tension, you know, I feel like they are misleading, and I think the biggest reason they're misleading is because of what I've said. All they tell you to do is pull through the shot. What does that mean? You can't just keep pulling and expect it to go off. You have to understand that there's a relax mechanism as you're pulling, and that your thumb has to just stay in place and let the barrel go into it as you're pulling through it. That's the thing that people need to realize. And there is one video that I'm going to link because he actually explains it. I'm sure it's been watched now by a lot more people, but he actually explains that relax the finger process. That's huge. That's what it is. That is the whole process that goes behind it. It's never as simple as just pull through and it'll break. That doesn't work. This button has to go in, or the hinge has to curl all the way over. It doesn't go off otherwise. So that's the main point that I wanted to talk about. And then the other one I wanted to talk about was, really, as long as you're comfortable and you're going as slow as you can, really, you know, does it make a big difference? I don't know. Just something I wanted to talk about. If you have opinions on this, leave them in the comments. I would love to talk about it because it's something that I'm pretty opinionated about, I feel like, and you know, it's fun to discuss. So nonetheless, I hope this was worth your time once again. I hope the videos I've uploaded here this last week, those shorts, were worth watching as well. I think we're gonna get some muskie related videos posted here within the next week, so I'm looking forward to those. But nonetheless, have a good evening, folks.